Cool. Well, we'll start off with just some kind of clerical stuff. Could you tell us your name and your connection to the state of Wisconsin?
My name is Joshua Gresl, and I was born in Milwaukee, Wisconsin, 1979, May 21st. And I grew up right on the edge of Milwaukee and Brown Deer, Wisconsin, a suburb just to the north, and on Sherman Boulevard, and went to Brown Deer schools, and lived in Brown Deer and Milwaukee pretty much my whole life.
Okay. And what was kind of your family like growing up in that area?
Family was good. My parents got divorced when I was 8. I got a younger brother, 2 years younger, and after the divorce, we would go like 2 weeks with my mom, 2 weeks with my dad. Kind of bounced around for a little while, and after high school, ended up moving to another suburb of Wisconsin, and then back to Brown Deer. And Brown Deer is kind of where I first started having trouble with the law, and not for anything too bad. It was mostly marijuana crimes, and but they would always, after a little while, they started targeting me there, and there was one cop, Officer Rooney, who he would just always try to pull me over every time he saw my van, and kind of just mess with me every time he could. Charge me for any little thing that he could find, which was mostly weed, and that's how I ended up getting my first felony for marijuana. I have 4 felonies. They're all for marijuana, and the first ones were just for tiny little bits of marijuana you could fit in your hand, but in Wisconsin, the second or subsequent offense for possession of THC, they can charge you as a felon, and so that's what they ended up doing. So in my early 20s, ended up getting 2 felonies pretty fast for possession of THC.
And how, kind of looking back on those charges, how do you feel about that? What does it make you feel now, looking back on those things?
I'm kind of bitter because it, just as a young man to be, charged with that and to feel like a criminal, and to, have to go through the whole court process over and over again, pay these fines, and just deal with kind of like the whole mental part of it. Like it set me back financially over and over again. I felt like I could never get ahead, and then just to be stuck with felonies on your record at a young age, it kind of steered my life in a different direction and limited me in certain things I could do, like finding jobs or even finding an apartment. People they can look at your record and just see felonies on there, and then automatically disqualify you for certain things that you might want to do in life.
Yeah, and it's never been any kind of violent crime, correct?
No violent crimes ever on my record. In Brown Deer, Officer Rooney, he would pull me over, and then he would always find a reason to search my whole van, and because he had found little bits of weed in there before, and he would search my whole van. One time I had just come back from camping and had a camping knife in my car, and he ended up charging me for a concealed weapon for that. It was a camping knife, had a compass on it and a bottle opener, but the knife blade was just long enough where he could charge me for a concealed weapon. And so that got on my record too, at an early age. And you know, anyone could look that up and see a concealed weapon on there. It doesn't say what it was, so people might automatically assume a firearm. So that's, you know, another thing that I feel like kind of has held me back. And you know, I always try to be honest with my criminal past, and you know, tell people about it. Even like, you know, someone I might be dating, I try to, you know, they can look up your criminal record, so I try to, you know, tell them, you know, everything on there. And that's kind of, there's been certain, you know, people that wouldn't really want to, you know, date a felon, or even, you know, sometimes just even be friends with somebody who's got a criminal record. But yeah, it was, that's one thing on my record where I feel like if I was able to afford a lawyer at the time, you know, maybe I could have got that taken away. But I've always had to deal with just public defenders. A lot of them weren't good. Later on, I ended up finding a couple good ones that actually helped me out for certain cases. But yeah, it was just, it's definitely mentally and financially held me back. And yeah, just dealing with certain officers over the years who just tried to, you know, charge me with any little thing they could. Officer Rooney, one time in a Brown Deer, he was searching my car, and this time he couldn't find any weed, so he ended up looking through my little garbage can that I had in my van. He found some seeds and stems in there, and ended up charging me for that. And
wow.
That one, I think, so, you know, these cases, it's a suburb of Milwaukee, but it's Milwaukee County, and so it goes to the Milwaukee County DA. And then that one, the DA ended up throwing that one away. But there were just so many other times where I've just been charged for weed, and it's added up, and it's definitely been something I've struggled with afterwards.
That's fascinating to me that the officer would go through all of the effort and probably the paperwork of trying to book you over some seeds and some stems, and at least, thank goodness, that DA kind of had the wherewithal to say, this is stupid. I mean, why? What do you think that kind of says to, you know, officers like that, or kind of just the mentality towards, you know, people who smoke weed or just have kind of weed on them? And do you think it's kind of what's felt today still?
Well, I know the laws right now are a little different. I'm not sure exactly what they are. I know that supposedly they're a little more laxed on, like if you have weed, they won't charge you as much, but that wasn't my case. And so, yeah, I just think a lot of people are living in the past. It's, you know, whether it's the officers who are, you know, initially giving people those charges, and then some of the DAs and prosecutors and judges, and then the legislators who are just holding on to these laws that make no sense.
What do you think your life would look like if you never had just that first felony from Officer Rooney?
I mean, it's hard to say, but you know, it would have changed some things with employment. You know, I could really have a totally different life right now. You know, I've tried to, you know, make the most of what I've been having to deal with, and try to turn negatives into positives. But yeah, it could have helped me, you know, find better employment, find maybe be a homeowner, you know, which I've tried to do before, but you know, just being having all these fines and never being able to get ahead, you know, it kind of hurt me in that aspect. And so yeah, sometimes I think about what I would be doing now if I didn't get in trouble for weed so many times. But yeah, I mean, overall, it hasn't helped me. But yeah, I just try to do the best that I can right now, and just take the opportunities that have opened up through my incarceration, and just see what I can do to turn the negatives into positives.
Mm-hmm. Well, kind of on that too, I'd want to talk about, you know, the silver lining or some of the good things, like the art that you've done. And, you know, before I get full to your art, could you kind of tell me about your pops a little bit and what art's meant in your life?
Yeah, my dad he started making paintings in the 80s when I was a kid, and you know, they kind of evolved over time. Things started coming out of the paintings, started adding things to them, and now he's still making art, and it's evolved to these big assemblages out of found objects, and he's kind of made a name for himself in Wisconsin in the art world. And yeah, kind of seeing him and being involved in his art shows, helping him set up and helping him with some of his artwork over the years has been a real inspiration for me. And so yeah, I got into photography at a young age. I think it was about 7 years old that I first picked up a camera and started messing around with it, and pretty much always had a camera with me ever since. So that's my main focus with my art. But I've done some sculptures over the years, and so when I had been locked up the many times, I started to make artwork in the jails that I was in, and I would always make things out of the stuff I would find around. I would do some drawings, but a lot of times I was just, you know, out of found objects, make some things. Like when I was in Milwaukee County Jail, I was sitting down for lunch one time, and you get these milk cartons every meal, and I saw a little face in the milk carton, and so I brought it back to my cell. You're not supposed to keep the milk cartons. It's considered state property, and so it's contraband, and you can get in trouble for having a milk carton or all these other little things that they give you. You're not supposed to keep. But I snuck it back to my cell and started ripping it apart, and then just made this little character, this little man, and looked almost like a little paper doll. And after that, I just had to keep making them after that. It might have been my OCD, but I just had to keep doing it over and over again. And so I would save every milk carton, have other inmates save their milk cartons for me. And so over the years at my different stays in jails and eventually prison, I would make these, so there ended up being hundreds of them. And eventually called them my milk monsters, and they kind of evolved, added things to them, and then they ended up being included in this art show, Art Against the Odds, which was set up by Deborah and Paul from the Portrait Society Gallery, where we are now. And a lot of inmates in prisons found out about this art show through a newsletter called The Community that goes to a lot of different prisons, and it was a call for artists. I was, eventually ended up going to prison for a weed-related case, and I was up in Chippewa Falls. Chippewa Falls what's it called, Chippewa Valley Correctional Treatment Facility, and that's when my dad heard about the art show through Deborah. They've known each other for many years, and heard about this prison art show, and he showed her some of the work I'd given to him over the years, and she was interested in having it in the show. And so when I got out in September of 2023, September 21st, and so that was, while I was locked up, it was kind of, you know, something to look forward to while I was there, and kept on making art, and when I got out, you know, the art show started in January of 2023. Actually, I got out in, must have been, 2022 in September. And then then the art shows was all set up, and Deborah and Paul took me over to the gallery with one of the other artists, John Tyson, and it was the first time we saw it, and it really just blew my mind to see really all the amazing artwork from these incarcerated artists, and just to see some of the things that I had made in these really dark times of my life, like framed in an art gallery. It was just an amazing experience, and then there was a whole wall full of my milk monsters I had made throughout the years at different places, and there was 101 of them on the wall, and that was just, my mind was blown, and I just couldn't believe that these things were displayed that I thought no one was ever going to see, but now all these people were able to see them then, and so many people reacted positively to them, and people could write notes at the end of the gallery. There was a little space to write notes to the artists, and I got so many notes from people, you know, with positive things to say. So the show has been a really great thing for me. One of the positive things that I, you know, was able to do from some of the worst times of my life, and you know, another positive thing that came out of me being in prison was I started a band up in Chippewa. They had all these musical instruments in the chapel area. I ended up working in the chapel eventually at Chippewa from I was a chapel clerk there, and then, you know, I would see these instruments that weren't being used, and so they used to have bands all the time, but then COVID shut that stuff down. Because when I got to Chippewa, it was still in lockdown for COVID, and things started opening back up, and I was able to eventually talk the chaplain into getting a band going. So there was one guy, Dan, in my unit had some experience on the bass, guitar, and I bought a guitar through the catalog system that they have there, acoustic guitar. So I started to learn that. Then I found a couple other guys who were all really good at guitar already, and so I focused more on the keyboard. And one of the guys named Jimmy, he was a really good guitar player, and brought him into the chapel one day to show him some of the songs that were available for us to play. They had these, there was a whole closet full of sheet music and songs, and then all these books and binders on the wall. And he pulled one binder off the wall, opened up the book, and then he said, "Why is my name in here?" It ended up being a song that he had written years ago, and somehow it ended up there at Chippewa in the chapel in the book, that on the first page that he opened up to. And that ended up being, so we all learned that song that he had written, and then just a bunch of other songs, and we would, called ourselves a gospel funk band. And so we would play every Sunday for church, and then for different events in the chapel. And that ended up being something real positive to do while being locked up, and hoping to get together with these guys out in the real world. We're all in different cities, but
Here, I'm gonna give you a second just because we have some chatter in the background. That's super neat stuff though, but yeah, we'll just let them finish chatting really quick because we'll pick it up on our microphones probably, but yeah, go for it. That's awesome. You're doing great right now. This is all very, very awesome stuff. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Can you toss me my water, please?
should we talk about the time when I got beat up by the cops for having weed?
If you're comfortable sharing with it, yeah.
Yeah, I think I can. It's sometimes hard to talk about, but yeah, I've got practice and therapy over the years to be able to.
Again, whatever you're
talk about it a
comfortable
little
with,
more.
but you know, I think it's a powerful story because it is your story and it's kind of the truth, you know. And I mean, if you're comfortable sharing with it by any means, and if at any point you want to stop, feel free, you know.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I first smoked weed in freshman year of high school, and then throughout that year smoked some, and then I stopped throughout the rest of high school.
How come?
I just at that point, being so young, it was affecting my grades and kind of my participation in school. But that might have also been too with focusing more on the people I was hanging out with, and but at the time it wasn't right for me. And then senior year of high school, I started dealing with these bad stomach pains pretty much every day, and I wasn't able to go to school sometimes. I started falling behind in school. Ended up having to take home classes to finish high school, and so that kind of led to me dealing with depression for the first time in my life, just not being able to go to school and dealing with this pain all the time. And so after high school, to kind of help with the pain and the physical pain and my depression, started smoking weed again. Felt that it helped significantly with the physical and some of the mental things I was dealing with. But then, because of the laws in Wisconsin, started dealing with the law and court and having to go through this cycle of getting arrested for weed, and then
And did you try anything to kind of help the pain, or other ways to deal with kind of the depression, those things before going back to weed?
I started seeing psychologists and psychiatrists and trying different medications they would give me, and a lot of them were just having me feel worse. So over the years, I tried all these different combinations of medications, and just nothing really worked out. Eventually, I got put on Xanax, which was probably the best medication for me, but still I don't like pills, and I don't like some of their side effects, and just I just rather find a more natural way. So weed is just something that just helped me more than any kind of pill could. But yeah, just getting in trouble over the years for just some weed has set me back. And I was one time in Milwaukee, near the airport at a hotel. There's a friend from out of town, and went into the hotel, was looking for my friend's room, was walking down the hall, and went down the stairs, turned the corner, and there were these police at one room close by, and there's two cops, and then they saw me and started approaching me, and I had a little bit of weed and a pipe in my hand, so they're approaching me, and then there was a garbage can right next to me, and so I started reaching towards the garbage can just to throw this weed away. I didn't want any trouble, and then one of the cops, he grabbed my arm and ended up throwing me against the wall. I hit my head really hard and went down to the ground, and then he was this big guy, and I'm on the ground, and he takes his knee and drops down and puts it right into my back, which ended up breaking my ribs.
Oh.
And so he had one knee, and he kept digging it into my ribs. The other knee he put on my neck. And so he kept on putting pressure on my neck and my back, and the other cop jumped on my legs, and he I called out, just because I was scared, and I called out, and someone had opened a door, one of the people staying at the hotel, and opened the door to see what was going on, and the cop yelled at them to shut the door, and then so there were no witnesses, and unfortunately there's no camera in the hallway to see what they did. But then they put my hands behind my back and into handcuffs, and I wasn't struggling. There was nothing I could do. I had two cops right on me, and but then while my hands were in handcuffs, he was just twist my fingers, and ended up hurting my hands real bad. And he was just like cussing at me the whole time, and he did some other stuff while I was on the ground, and then ended up walking me out of the hotel and outside, and I was just trying to talk to him and ask him why he would do something like that. All I did was have weed in my hand, and he just kept on telling me to shut up. And then we got out by the police car, and then for no reason just throws me on the ground right there. And eventually they put me in the police car and take me to a jail. But then I'm having all this pain in my back. I just felt something wasn't right back there. So they had to take me to the hospital, and they didn't, at the hospital then, they didn't find anything back there. I think they did x-rays. So eventually when I was released, I had to go to the hospital because I knew something wasn't right, and they found out that I had broken ribs. And so, I had the broken ribs, and I was, left bloody and bruised from the situation, and those things eventually healed. But then, after a while, I ended up being diagnosed with post-traumatic stress disorder, and so those mental scars. That was in 2005, and those scars are still not healed. It's still something I deal with today. I have nightmares about that exact situation, and then with just other nightmares too about being back in jail, and then just having all these things play out in my dreams, and or constantly like running away from police in my nightmares, and yeah, it's definitely something that I gotta still deal with, and I kind of sometimes I blame myself for not taking action against the cops that did that.
Did anything ever come of them?
No, I had originally called a couple lawyers, but the ones I talked to were hesitant to go against the Milwaukee Police Department. So I kind of got discouraged about that, and I really just wanted it to go away. I had no idea it would affect me all these years later. And I mean, if I would have known that, I would have tried to do more at the time, but I really just wanted to forget about it. But after all these years, I still can't forget about it. It just pops back in my mind. And that's why I have this fear of police still to this day. And even if I hear police sirens in the distance, or if I see especially if I see the flashing lights of a police car, or just see any officer in uniform, my anxiety. Ever since then, I've developed this bad anxiety, to go along with the PTSD and my depression, and even the whole court process and all the different cases I had, that added to the trauma too, just having to constantly go to court and having to pay all these fines, and just deal with all this negativity that came from something that, in my opinion, should not be a crime.
Yeah. Thank you for sharing all that with me too. I mean, I can't imagine it's the easiest thing, but it's a really brave thing of you to kind of retell this story. Do you remember how old you were when that all happened?
Well, that was 2005 when I got beat up by the cops, and so I would have been 26, I guess. And 25 or 26, and I still think about that incident pretty much every day of my life, and I've gone to therapy, all these different psychologists and psychiatrists over the years. I try to deal with that, but it's just something that I still can't get out of my mind. It always creeps back in some way.
And this all just came, again, from just having a tiny bit of weed on you.
Yep, just a tiny bit of weed that would fit in the palm of your hand, and yeah, it was, especially that one cop, he just decided to beat my ass because of it. It just really makes no sense.
And are there things now, I mean, we kind of talked a little bit about you being involved with gospel music and doing some art. Are there things today that kind of help deal with that kind of stuff? And you talked a little bit about psychiatrists, but what are you doing or can you do today that's really helped with that kind of stuff?
Well, I mean, ultimately, I think God gets me through everything. In high school, became a Christian, and when I was locked up in Chippewa, I kind of focused on that and working in the chapel and kind of helping people whenever I could, and being involved with the gospel band, and so ultimately it's a higher power for me that really has helped me not give up, because there's been plenty of times that I wanted to, but I know that I'm here for a purpose, and when I was locked up, I kind of dedicated myself to when I get out, I'm going to try to help as many people as I can. And so that's what I've been trying to do, volunteering at different organizations. And volunteering was even a big thing before I got locked up this last time and ended up going to prison. I volunteered for a couple of organizations, a local food pantry, and some other places where I was trying to make a difference in my community. And so when they ended up locking me up for a nonviolent drug charge, they took away someone who's trying to help out their community. And that's what I really think these judges and these prosecutors need to look at. Is it really worth destroying someone's life when there's other options? They could have given me drug court. I could have gone to classes on the outside, still been able to do good things in the community. And so, yeah, before going to prison this past time, I felt like all the things from the past, I was able to finally get ahead financially a bit, save up some money. I was in a house that I was eventually going to be able to buy. It was going to be my first house. And then I get locked up again, and I'm in jail for this long time waiting for the courts, and I can't get out. And so I ended up losing the house, losing my life savings, losing probably 90% of everything I had. A lot of my art collection, and just a lot of things that are important to me. Thousands of photographs. Ended up just because my family had to deal with everything, so it put this huge burden on my family when I was locked up, because I couldn't get out and deal with any of my stuff, a house full of stuff, and I had these storage units that needed to be dealt with, and so it was a huge burden on my dad and my mom. And my mom would have friends come over to the house, and they had to take stuff. They ended up getting a big dumpster and having to throw stuff away, and because there just weren't a whole lot of options for them to deal with this. And one time she was bringing stuff out of my house with another lady, and she fell down and ended up breaking her hip. Oh. And so, I'm on the phone with my family, and to hear about that, and it's just like, it's devastating to hear what.
And that's all the result of just another simple marijuana charge, right?
Yeah, that one was. I had marijuana and then mushrooms. The mushrooms ended up being thrown away, and there was a half gram of cocaine too that I had. I've never done cocaine, but I had picked it up for somebody else. That was the charge for that was like just a misdemeanor, and that would have been like a 6-month stay in the county jail. which I had over that. I ended up doing about 9 months total waiting for the court system to play out while I was there. But being charged with the marijuana possession was another felony. And so that's what really got me sent to prison for the first time. And so yeah, just being locked up and having all these things on the outside that I can't help with, and I know my family has to deal with. So all these things that I have no control over, that ended up being the hardest part of being locked up. Being locked up and being around all these guards who are assholes. I can't say it was every guard everywhere, but there was a significant amount of them who just, they would just mistreat the inmates, and a lot of them would focus their energies on me and like the artwork I was making, and because a lot of it is considered contraband, because I would use milk cartons or the back of their forms to do drawings on, and so I ended up having a ton of my artwork thrown away over the years and destroyed by these guards, and so that was always a tough thing to deal with. There was one guard in Chippewa. He would do these room searches. There were 10-man cells, and he would spend over an hour looking through one cell with another officer, and he would just try to find every little thing that he could, and he would get people in trouble for anything. Like there were some really good artists, very talented artists would do these amazing drawings, and he would find a drawing in a cell. He would take it back to his station. He would look up to see if you had purchased that exact kind of piece of paper over the catalog system. And if you didn't have a receipt for that kind of paper, he would destroy that whole drawing that someone did. So I'd seen some amazing artwork just get destroyed by this guy.
Wow.
Yeah, I don't know if I should say his name, but you can edit it out. But his name was Sergeant Sika, and so we called him the Sika virus, because he would just go in and just mess with people any way he could. And I ended up getting in trouble for different art supplies I would have that I wasn't supposed to have, just because it's considered contraband, and I'm not supposed to save milk cartons or any little thing that I would add to them, or anything that I would make for my artwork. So I ended up having to do a lot of extra duty. I would get a lot of cell confinement where I couldn't leave and do anything else, and I almost ended up getting kicked out of my program, because in Chippewa everyone's on ERP, which is Earned Release Program. So you end up eventually getting into these courses. It's either 3 or 5 months courses, and because everybody there has a drug-related crime, or almost everybody there will at least have a drug-related crime. And so you do these courses, and then you end up getting out earlier than you usually would if you complete the courses. And I almost got kicked out of my program for getting in trouble for just these things I would use for my artwork. But yeah, I eventually completed my courses, and I got out, and just really just trying to make the most of a bad situation.
Awesome. Really quick, is everything good?
Everything's good, 25 minutes on the battery.
Okay, sounds good. Yeah, I think I'll kind of get just the last few, because I think we have a lot of good stuff, and I really appreciate you sharing just all of this information. I think it'll be great for people to hear kind of your full story. Yeah. Based on all these experiences you've had and all the stuff you've shared with me, what is something you would want lawmakers, or even people who just kind of agree with the harsh weed laws that are in place, what do you want them to learn from your story? What should they know about your experiences and how these laws have affected you.
Well, it's really not just me. I'm just one of, thousands of people that have been affected. People that make these laws should really go out of their way to talk to people that have been affected over the years. See what it's done to people, see what it's done to their families, see what it's done to their futures, and what they are not able to do because of these laws on marijuana that are just so far behind the times. I mean, we've got so many other places in our country that, where it's either totally legal or at least legal for medicinal purposes, and then, you're not locking up people and destroying their lives, and then also the state benefits and other institutions in the state, and people benefit because of the tax you can put on THC products. And in Wisconsin, I just don't understand why we're so far behind the times, and just all the little things that make them want to keep it illegal, and it's just going to keep affecting people over and over again. And I've been through a lot of negative things because of being arrested for weed, and I just hope that maybe if my story can help a couple other people in the future, then I'm all about that, and I'd like to do whatever I can to help change these laws in any little way that I can, and really just to change a lot of things about the criminal justice system in Wisconsin and elsewhere, just how people are treated, and how people's lives are taken away from them just for nonviolent drug charges especially. And I'd like to make a change with the way people with mental health issues are dealt with in jails and prisons, because I've been through a lot of bad stuff, and every time I got locked up and then got released, my mental health had taken a spiral and gotten a lot worse than it was before. And so all these times I was, going to therapy and trying to get better from these situations that had happened in the past, from police, and just kept on getting set back and getting locked up, and then having my mental health be worse time and time again. Things need to change in so many different ways. So since I've been released, I've been trying to, so far do little things that I can to be involved in other organizations that are helping with reentry, and just trying to change the system. I know that right now I might not be able to do a lot, but I'm trying to get more and more involved, and so I'd like to work with more granizations that are trying to change things. So I'm open to talking to more people, and just really trying to make a change for the better.
Awesome. That's very well said. And I really only have two more kind of quick ones for you, but I wanted to talk a little bit, because we've talked, you're a nonviolent offender, and just from chatting with you, you seem like a very friendly, approachable person. I wouldn't get like I'm scared around you, And I want to talk to just the perception, of like weed versus alcohol. And, we talked a little bit on the phone kind of about that and the perceptions of things, like you're someone who has smoked weed because it's helped with your depression and anxiety in times, and probably did that much, and you had to pay the price for it, versus there are people who drink on a daily basis, and it has a lot more destructive effects without any kind of repercussions. I mean, do you have anything to speak to that at all?
Yeah, I've personally seen people ruin their lives from drinking. Drinking alcohol, becoming addicted. I've, unfortunately, have had some very close people in my lives become alcoholics, and there's a couple of them who, when they drink too much, they'll get violent and just yell all the time, or just have alcohol change them so much, where it ends up really steering their life in a negative direction, where some of them, it's led to them losing jobs over and over again, not be able to have an apartment.
I'm going to give you 1 second just to let them finish. Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you, but just want to make sure that you don't say anything great and it gets a little interrupted. But okay, yeah. You're doing a fantastic job.
Thanks.
Of course.
Thank you. Sometimes I feel like
Well, that's what we're trying to do here, is break that.
wander off and.
Well, and that's the beauty of video editing too, because I
Yeah.
mean, and again, this piece is only 6 minutes, so what I want to do is make an extended version with all the people I interviewed too. So this one that'll be submitted is short, but I'm gonna work on one when I have more time to really sit with everything, and I'm not just like really trying to plug it in super fast to kind of tell your whole story. Because unfortunately, I have to condense this like hour of our chat into a couple of minutes. But what I want to do is either release just our whole conversation eventually, or just like a much extended version. Because I want to share your whole story too, as well as for now, your story is just a piece of this larger conversation in this. But I will put out this whole thing too, because I think it's very worth sharing.
Yeah, it's good.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
and again,
definitely glad you're doing this.
Yeah, and I thank you. I could say the same thing. I mean, it takes balls to do this kind of stuff, and now's the time to.
Yeah, usually, like before, I always wanted to not talk about my criminal past at all, not have anyone know about it. Mm-hmm. But kind of being involved in the Art Against the Odds show, being interviewed, and we had a panel discussion where I'm talking in front of a whole group of people, and giving the tours, and kind of just being open, being more and more open with what I've gone through. It's helped me kind of just really, I've got nothing to lose, and just if my story can help anybody or inspire anybody, that's what I'm going to keep doing. And
it'll undoubtedly, I think a lot of people will resonate with it, and even for the people that don't resonate right away, I think it's just a very new perspective on what this looks like. Because again, the people who feel so strongly that weed is the devil, or it's this huge Schedule I, they grew up in towns where they've never seen it, or the few people that did roll a blunt, it was laced with something because they're up in Fond du Lac or something like that, so it's just, it'll be very good to see what it's really like, because I think a lot of the people I talk to just further north just have misconceptions, they just don't really know. So at the very least, it'll be good education. Yeah, I think I'm gonna swap batteries. Yeah. Okay. I'm gonna do another clap. Gotta sync the audio. Okay, so just to kind of refresh, get us back to the mind space we're in before, just kind of, you've dealt with a lot of seems like unfair repercussions for weed and very nonviolent nonviolent charges. But then you look at kind of alcohol and how that affects people's behaviors. What could you kind of say to the weed versus alcohol argument?
Yeah, I've seen people drink and then get violent and get mean. I've never seen that happen with weed. For the most part, it's going to make you probably chill out a little more, make you more peaceful. Alcohol, I've seen it where people drink and then it brings up trauma from the past and they'll focus negatively on that. And whereas with weed, I think it can help you with some of the things that have happened in the past. It definitely has for me. And yeah, I've had too many people that are close to me, destroy their lives from alcohol.
I might hold it for one more second because I thought they disappeared and then they came back. I'm sorry about that, but
Sorry.
we don't have to go through the whole thing because it's your third time saying it now, but just kind of if you want to give brief summary on your thoughts on kind of just the alcohol versus weed.
Right, yeah. I've just had so many people close to me basically ruin their lives from alcohol, whether it's losing job after job or losing apartments, having it turn them into a monster, having it turn them into such a negative or violent person. And when you're addicted to something, you can't really see and understand what it's doing to yourself or other people. And yeah, I've got one friend who has just had so many health problems, but she would just drink every day, drinking vodka every day throughout the whole day. Then losing jobs, being kicked out of apartments, losing friends, and then the health problems, just like literally killing yourself with alcohol. And it's happened to so many people. Have lost their lives either just from the ongoing effects of alcohol or one bad night you get into a fight or you get behind the wheel driving, you kill yourself or kill other people. And I just don't see those things happening with weed. Marijuana isn't, there should be, scientific studies on what it does to your body and what it does to your mind. But in my experience, I've had bad experiences with alcohol where, drink too much, I'm not able to remember what I did. And I've had times where I've, said things that I wish I wouldn't have to people or done certain things and really regretted it, but not being able to remember, just being totally blacked out from alcohol. And that's never happened with weed. I'm always able to, remember what I did and usually have it enhance my experience and just be a positive time when, alcohol can just have the opposite effect over and over again. So yeah, the laws aren't proportional with weed and alcohol. I'm not saying prohibition for alcohol is the way, but really in Wisconsin and any other state that's living in the past just needs to figure out better options for people to have at least medicinal marijuana, because I know firsthand that it helps people, and you can regulate it and have it be a positive experience for people instead of, ruining people's lives of having them to go through the court systems and jail or prison, like it has for me, unfortunately. eventually, Wisconsin will change, but how many lives are going to be ruined in the meantime?
That's really powerful right there. I mean, damn. The only other thing I have for you, Josh, is, is there anything we didn't really hit on that you'd like to share, or do you have just some kind of final words you'd like to share with people about anything, your story, weed laws in general?
I've probably, just about said it all.
Yeah.
I can't remember if there's anything we talked about on the phone that you can remember that'd be beneficial, or.
I mean, I think we hit on just about everything we possibly could. I just always like asking that at the end of conversations in case, we missed out on stuff. But, I think we hit on just about everything. But, I think if you're feeling good and you feel like you told what you want to tell, I feel good about all we have. We have, I think, a lot of great conversations. So I think if you're cool with it, maybe you could show us some of your art now. We can kind of wrap up the interview stuff and kind of go more towards that. Awesome.
Yeah.
If you want to do a little handshake shot right here that I could use in the beginning, just a nice strong, thank you, man. Appreciate you.
Yeah, appreciate you. Appreciate you getting this together and that trying to make a difference. And if there's anything else ongoing that I can do to, help out, I just I want these laws to change, and I want, people's minds to change, and so anything I can do to make a difference in any small way, I'm all about it.
Absolutely, and I'm gonna keep doing what I can. Again, I have to do the 6-minute version of this that's due a week from now, which is a lot. But then I don't want that to be the end of the conversation either. I'll make longer cuts and really spend more time with this topic because, just 1 month isn't enough to get the whole story of things. But absolutely, I'll keep you posted. We're definitely gonna come see the gallery, and I wanna see the show itself too, and we'll just stay in touch. I mean, this is probably gonna take a little more work than just a 6-minute video, but I think it's a great start, so.
Yeah, and I mean, we didn't talk now about the Montana thing. I feel like, this is mostly focused on Wisconsin laws.
Exactly,
right? So,
and I really appreciate you telling me because that was just a crazy story, man. That was
maybe
ridiculous.
Another time we can maybe talk about that.
Yeah, sit back down and do the full kind of walkthrough again too.
Yeah,
but,
that was definitely an adventure.
Yeah.
I think Montana is legal now.
It is legal in Montana now too.
Is it totally legal now?
Yeah.
Okay.
Fully recreational.
At the time when I was caught there, they had medicinal laws, but it was very hard to get at that time, and I wasn't a resident. I was just driving through, and just it was a whole fiasco.
Yeah, I can imagine back then, Montana, because I was shocked. I mean, they, I think, passed it like a year or two ago, and they finally legalized it. And I've been up there before, being from out west, but I never expected that. Like, I didn't think they'd legalize, before here,
Yeah.
I mean, crazy stuff, but.
Numbers were pretty quick recently. There have been a lot of states that have flipped in the past.
Yeah, and I'm hoping we're one of them, because I know, like, the GOP's working on, like, a medical bill, but it's not the best. It's similar to, I think, how Iowa does it, where you need to have like really serious chronic conditions, and there's limits each month, and they wouldn't, I don't know, they're working on a bill to help further decriminalize, but it might not pass if the medical one does. It's very just all the semantics and just a lot of bullshit, but do we want to, maybe we can start packing up this space? We want to look at some of your art?
Sure. Is that a good place to look at it there? We got one piece here. I'll take it out of this plastic.
Yeah, we could bring it and maybe even stage it up here, but awesome. I think I'm going to break down the interview